upon a time when Sir Isaac Newton was sitting under a tree, suddenly an apple fell over his head and he started pondering that, okay, what happened? Something after the apple broke down from that stem, it could have hanged around in air, isn't it? But it fell down. It fell over his head. Why? That means something is pulling the apple in the downward direction. There has to be a force which is pulling the apple in the downward direction. Then at that moment, he started thinking that, is it only the apple that the artist is pulling towards himself, or various other things, or is it pulling all other objects around us towards the earth? Okay, he started pondering on this point. Okay, he also started thinking that if the apple, because he gave his third law of motion, that every object exerts, what was the third law? Every object exerts equal and opposite forces on each other. Equal and opposite forces on each other. Okay, if the earth is exerting a force on the apple because of which the apple is falling down, he thought that, can the apple not attract the earth? Or is the apple not attracting the earth? Why? But yes, we can see the apple falling downward, but we are not experiencing an upward force, isn't it? The apple is not pulling the earth upward. So what is happening? So is the Newton's third law wrong? Is it wrong? So let's get into it. Let's understand it. कि क्या हो रहा है? ठीक है ना? कि क्या मैंने क्या क्वेश्चन किया, आपको समझ में आया होगा? मैंने ये क्वेश्चन किया कि we know that the earth attracts the falling apple. As soon as the apple gets detached from the stem, the apple becomes free and the earth attracts the free falling apple, isn't it? Now, the question is, does the apple also attract the earth? Is it possible that the apple is also attracting the earth? Because according to Newton's third law, if one object is exerting a force on the other, then this object will also exert an equal and opposite force on the second object, isn't it? This is being explained by Newton himself in his third law. So that is what is happening. Okay, let us see. Let us see. What is being said is that, see, the earth is pulling the apple. This is the gravitational force on the apple by the earth, isn't it? So this is again the apple is exerting the same amount of force on the earth, the same gravitational force on the earth by the apple. These forces are equal and opposite according to the Newton's third law. एप्पल भी अर्थ को खींच रहा है और अर्थ भी एप्पल को खींच रहा है, लेकिन हम अपने आंखों से यही देख पाते हैं कि एप्पल अर्थ की तरफ खींचा चला आ रहा है. ये तो हमने कभी नहीं देखा ना कि अर्थ भी एप्पल की तरफ खींचा जा रहा है. कभी देखा ऐसा? हुआ ऐसा? नहीं हुआ. तो थर्ड लॉ तो यहाँ पे हम ये तो नहीं बोल सकते कि थर्ड लॉ भी गलत है. तो फिर आखिर में क्या हो रहा है ना? चलिए इसको समझते हैं. ना, इसको समझने के लिए हमें न्यूटन के सेकंड लॉ का सहारा लेना पड़ेगा. अकॉर्डिंग टू द न्यूटन्स सेकंड लॉ, according to Newton's second law, we know that force is equal to mass into acceleration. Okay, so what will be the acceleration? Acceleration is equal to the mass force by the mass. Okay, so in this case the force is a constant quantity, isn't it? The apple is also exerting a constant force on the earth and the earth is also exerting a constant force on the apple. So we can say this force is a constant quantity. So whenever there is a constant, we can replace it by a proportional symbol and we can say that the acceleration is proportional to the mass. Fine. That means if the mass increases, the acceleration decreases. समझ में आया आपको? जितना मास बढ़ेगा, जितना वेट बढ़ेगा, उतना एक्सीलरेशन घटेगा. एक्सीलरेशन क्या है तो पता है आपको? चेंज इन वेलोसिटी पर यूनिट टाइम, है ना? ये आपका एक्सीलरेशन उतना ही घटेगा. अब ये देखिए, forces on each other, but because the earth is a very massive object, it is not accelerated. But since the apple is a tiny object, its mass is very, very negligible, so the acceleration is high. It will move. समझ में आ गया आपको? Okay.